film, I'd like to tell you a bit about my background. Having come on to the scene here in New Brunswick and East Brunswick recently, I am a mechanical engineer by training. I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Detroit. I have a master's degree in civil engineering with the emphasis in air pollution from the Polytechnic Institute of New York, more commonly known previously as Brooklyn Poly. I'm a licensed professional engineer in 3 states. I have worked extensively in solid waste. As a matter of fact, I've been involved in 32 projects in 15 states over the last 11 years. I've had the opportunity to evaluate systems and proposals from numerous industries involved in the waste business. I've done design and feasibility work on different kinds of disposal and have seen how the industry can handle solid waste from the evaluation and design side. And it was a pleasure for me to be able to go to formerly Wheeler Brader Fry, now Signal RESCO, which is probably the foremost firm in the United States and probably the world in design, construction, and operation of waste-to-energy facilities. Now with that, I'd like to introduce the film that you're about to see. The film was done by Robert McNeil of the McNeil-Lara team from the Public Broadcasting Service. It looks at not only our RESCO facility in Saugus, Massachusetts, but the evolution of resource recovery as a solid waste disposal method around the country over the last 10 to 12 years. We think that it's a very good film. It looks at all aspects of waste handling and how the evolution has come along to the kind of technology we're talking about, and winding up with what we think is the most technologically advanced plant that has ever been proposed anywhere in the world for mass burn combustion of waste and conversion of the heat energy into steam and electricity. So with that, we'll take a look at the McNeil film, and once you have that introduction on a broad sense, we'll then take a more specific look at the East Brunswick project, the Edgeboro RESCO project, and our slide presentation.
We must act now, together, to devise and to implement a comprehensive national energy plan to cope with a crisis that otherwise could overwhelm us.
The time has come to end the long debate over national energy policy in the United States and to put ourselves solidly on the road to energy independence.
What is needed now is decisive and responsible action to increase our energy supplies.
Since the first energy crisis shook the nation in 1973, the calls to expand domestic energy supplies have been loud and clear. Yet we have dramatically increased our dependence on foreign oil, while making little progress developing domestic alternatives. There will be no one solution to the energy crisis, and if we are to become energy independent, we must exploit a wide range of alternatives. Many of these sources are well known. But there are others not so well known. One of these forgotten resources is simple household garbage. Every year, America generates 150 million tons of household waste. And now, through a process called resource recovery, we can use this waste to create energy. In each ton of garbage, there is the energy equivalent of 1.5 barrels of oil. And resource recovery plants like this one are making this potential a reality. Located on Boston's North Shore, RESCO recovers the energy from the refuse of surrounding communities and supplies that energy to a nearby factory. In its first 5 years of operation, RESCO has converted more than 1.5 million tons of garbage into energy. The procedure is simple. After the trucks have weighed in, they back up to the plant's main building and dump their loads into a large storage pit. Grapples, operated by overhead cranes, lift the garbage out of the pit and carry it to furnaces. Based on a design used in Europe for over 30 years and engineered for America by Wheelabrator Fry, RESCO is an example of mass combustion technology. The mass combustion approach calls for feeding unsorted refuse into furnaces specifically designed to burn only garbage as fuel. After combustion, the ash is sorted. Ferrous metals are separated out for recycling, leaving only a glassy aggregate, which can be used in road paving or construction. The most important resource that RESCO recovers, however, is energy, generated as the furnaces heat boilers to produce high-pressure steam. The steam is piped to a nearby General Electric plant, where it is used to generate electricity and test products. The plant employs 12,000 people, manufacturing steam turbines and jet aircraft engines. Of all your steam requirements here at GE, what percentage of that is supplied by RESCO?
Well, if we take a look at our net take from RESCO, they probably give us about 40% of our total steam supply.
And how much imported oil does that replace that you would otherwise have to burn to make that steam?
Gee, I'd guess about between 12 and 15 million gallons annually.
The energy crisis, however, is not the only side to resource recovery. Perhaps even more important, resource recovery can help solve a hidden crisis, a crisis whose consequences are only now being recognized. Traditionally, garbage has been disposed of in landfills, where it is piled up and covered with earth. But landfilling now has a limited future. In densely populated areas of the country, the areas with the greatest garbage disposal needs, we are fast approaching a waste disposal crisis.
The landfill situation today, I think you could say, is a borderline disaster. Communities are running out of suitable space to site new landfills. Old landfills are being closed down. They're either full or they're being shut down for environmental reasons. And it's just getting more and more difficult for a community to find a suitable place to bury its garbage.
New York City is one such community. Every day, its 7 million inhabitants generate 24,000 tons of solid waste. Can you briefly outline the solid waste disposal problems the city faces in the future?
We've already had to close a landfill located at Pelham Bay in the Bronx just because it was filled to capacity. The landfill located near Kennedy Airport at Fountain Avenue has been deeded to the federal government. We're operating it under lease. It will become part of the Gateway Parks system and is scheduled to close in 1985. And certainly it's not feasible to site any new landfills in the city of New York. So that by 85, we see the loss of 10,000 tons, or almost half, of our present waste disposal capacity. And we've got a critical problem in moving to replace that lost capacity.
The waste disposal problem is not confined to the Northeast. In other parts of the country, such as California, it is equally severe.
The landfill situation in California in its urban areas, San Francisco, Bay Area, Los Angeles, San Diego, is really dreadful. No one wants a new landfill in their backyard. As a consequence, we're having a great deal of difficulty getting landfills sited in the state of California. In the Los Angeles area, where they're right now producing in the county 34,000 tons of garbage a day, 23,000 tons of that garbage may not have a spot to go within a year.
Running out of space for new landfills is one aspect of the waste disposal crisis. Another problem is the pollution that many landfills cause. As garbage decomposes, it releases toxic gases into the air. And even more serious, landfills can pollute local water supplies.
Dave, what exactly is happening under here?
What you see here is a product we call leachate, which is coming out of the side of the dump. The reason this happens is that things are piled up very high behind here, covered with earth, and then when the rain falls, there isn't much that can be done to keep the water from seeping through and percolating out and carrying with it anything it can dissolve. There's no telling what we're going to find in this water in terms of toxics, heavy metals, organics.
Things dangerous to people's health,
Definitely,
potentially.
very definitely.
Where does it go from here?
It goes down to a small collection pond about 250 feet. At that pond, it's recirculated by an irrigation pump and blown back up on top of the fill.
Why do they do that?
It's basically a way of trying to contain the leachate in the system, in the fill.
And what's the effect of doing that?
The effect is that the leachate basically gets stronger every year. And also, natural rainwater increases the volume of the leachate, so somewhere, sometime, there's got to be a surplus which escapes to the wider environment.
In New Jersey, about half of the population gets its water from surface supplies like this river that we're standing by. The other half get their supplies from groundwater. And in this part of New Jersey, in other parts of New Jersey, and other states as well, there are clearly documented cases where either the surface water runoff or the groundwater contamination from landfills has ruined wells, ruined drinking water supplies, exposed people needlessly to harmful agents. At best, landfills can be made to be not too bad of a necessary evil, but the problems associated with them can never be totally solved.
Pollution problems are making the public wary of landfills. So that now, even in areas like Texas, where there's enough open space for them, siting landfills has become difficult and uncertain.
Currently, there are a couple of public hearings going on now for new landfills. They look like they're going to have a very tough road to get a permit because of the public opposition. Some of the problems that they're experiencing in other parts of the country, such as pollution of the water and air emission problems, as well as problems to the land, have caused people to say, don't put it near me, put it further out.
In Houston, further out means siting landfills near fertile farmlands. Here, local opposition is strong, and residents attend landfill hearings in large numbers to make their feelings known.
The final decision in these matters are not made by showing of hands. All testimony will be taken under oath. You're subject to your direct evidence and cross-examination. The bottom line is whether or not this site, if operated according to the law and the regulations, would be hazardous to the public health. All right, any other questions?
Will we have a limited time to make opposition, our own individual? Will it be limited to the first open meeting, or will we be able to go?
No. I will listen to evidence from anyone. It'll be conducted just like a trial.
Interrupt you for a moment. What is your position on the application?
I'm very definitely against having it put out there.
Why is that?
Well, because I, first of all, own property out there, and I know that it will devalue our property. Next of all, I don't think it's safe, and I don't believe that it's good for people to live around these things.
With the growing citizen opposition to landfills in this area,
how much more difficult is it to use that as a solution for garbage disposal?
Well, we have about 6 major metropolitan areas in Texas that it's becoming extremely difficult to find a site. For example, you saw today the opening of a first day of a hearing on a municipal solid waste landfill site here in the Houston area. The turnout indicates the public, I think, are becoming more aware of the need to address solid waste management in a more professional manner, and I include resource recovery as the bottom line as far as the ultimate way to go.
While resource recovery will never totally replace landfills, it can reduce the need for many of them. RESCO, for example, was actually built on the site of a landfill in Saugus, Massachusetts. What has the RESCO plant accomplished from the point of view of the town of Saugus?
From the point of view of the town, the RESCO plant has accomplished the closing of the 180-acre dump, the elimination of the old dump and the nuisances associated with this, and now we have an operating plant that has brought both economical factors to the town and also eliminated a public health nuisance.
Resource recovery is a widely admired idea, and one that has been used successfully in Europe for quite some time. Nonetheless, there have been several significant obstacles to its rapid growth in America. One problem has been the technology. While plants like RESCO use a simple and proven method for converting garbage into energy, several other projects have developed their own, more complex technologies. So far, most of them have not succeeded.
The major problems with resource recovery in the early years was that we kept trying to develop new technologies when we should have been implementing proven technologies. We felt that the experience in Europe, where the technology was so well proven, was really not applicable to the United States. Well, over the course of the years, we found out that that was the wrong kind of thinking. We should have been looking at European technology a lot earlier.
Another difficulty has been that developing a resource recovery project requires the public officials who are responsible for garbage disposal to confront issues which they're not accustomed to dealing with.
Resource recovery is a complex program for municipalities to undertake. It's different than most normal public works types of projects in that with a resource recovery project, the community is now marketing an end product, namely the energy and materials. That's something communities don't normally do. They're entering into much more complex business relationships with the vendors of the equipment, with the operators of the facilities, with the supply and control of the waste, and with the markets for the recovered energy and materials. Putting all this together into a complete system that will work for a long period of time is complex for municipal governments to undertake.
A third impediment to the growth of resource recovery has been the traditionally low cost of operating landfills and the continued violation of regulations designed to minimize the risk of pollution.
What effect would it have if landfilling regulations were enforced?
I think that is really the key. We have a very good appreciation now for the threat which landfills could pose to the environment, far more than 10 years ago even. But what we don't have is consistent, uniform enforcement of those standards. Right now, the federal government is overseeing a national inventory of land disposal, which hopefully will lead to a more effective enforcement program. This will have the impact of increasing the costs for the care of proper maintenance of a landfill and make it more competitive with resource recovery.
Probably the most significant obstacle to resource recovery has been that for many years it was not economically feasible. Plants were expensive and energy was cheap. But now, in areas with large amounts of garbage to dispose of, the financial equation is changing. The skyrocketing price of oil is making the energy created by resource recovery plants increasingly valuable. Will resource recovery be economic for a city like New York?
In terms of resource recovery or the cost of alternatives to resource recovery, it's very likely, and we expect, that resource recovery will be economic, that is feasible in the next 2 to 3 years. The production of energy and raw materials from the waste stream will produce an income, as it were, to offset the higher costs of building new facilities and operating them.
We look at the problem, we approach it as a means of garbage disposal, but we cannot do it unless we are working on that energy market. That's the only thing that'll make a project happen.
Taking the most optimistic estimate, what percentage of the energy needs of this country could resource recovery provide?
I think it's about 5% nationwide. That's from a combination of direct energy recovered by a combustion process, material recycling, and recovery of gas from landfills. In any given locality, however, it could be higher. It could be 10% or 15%.
San Diego is one community where the energy generated by resource recovery can make a difference. Already the second largest city in California, San Diego is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. With an average of 2,000 new customers each month, San Diego Gas and Electric foresees a serious power shortage developing in the near future. And resource recovery is seen as one way to help avert the crisis.
The county, city, and state have banded together to build a facility that would take at this time approximately 40% of the trash and burn it to make steam.
So how much of your present generating capacity could be replaced or represented by burning garbage, do you think?
If the garbage trash plant comes into being and they utilize the trash that is available in the entire region, perhaps up to 10% of our generation could be accommodated by this type of facility.
And that would save a lot of imported oil.
That would save a great deal of imported oil.
In Boston, they're dependent on foreign oil for 60% of their electricity. And looking to the future, the energy value of resource recovery takes on added importance.
The advantage of trash burning is that the fuel source price is stable. We're now paying about $30 a barrel for oil, and by the middle 80s, we anticipate we'll be paying $60 to $70 a barrel. Trash is not going to go up in cost anywhere near like that. So over the long term, and all these plants, by the way, are designed to operate about 40 years. Over the long term, holding down that fuel supply cost is going to place trash in a very advantageous position vis-a-vis its competition, if you will, in the form of oil or even coal. And it also solves a social problem. The tight urban area that we're in says that you don't have a heck of a lot of land for landfills, and you can't go burying the stuff all over the countryside.
Resource recovery is becoming more and more feasible. And plants like RESCO demonstrate that it can be done. RESCO has been operating successfully since 1975 and is the result of a joint effort by Wheelabrator Fry, the private developer, 18 surrounding communities with a long-term garbage disposal problem, and General Electric, the energy user. What have your relations been like with RESCO? How reliable is it?
Well, when I look at down the road what has happened in the past several years with regard to the uncertainty of oil supplies from the Mideast and what has happened in OPEC with regard to the astronomical increase in oil prices, I feel much more confident with the availability of rubbish in the next few years than I would with the availability of oil.
One of the first communities to contract its waste disposal with RESCO was Medford. What are the advantages for Medford of using RESCO?
We've had no complaints. We've picked up everything. They take everything, from a clothespin to a piano. And if we had to go to a landfill, I believe the closest one is Foxborough, which is approximately 40 miles away. And I think the expense would be just out of sight in comparison to what we're paying RESCO now.
Are there no disadvantages?
We, to the best of my knowledge, as long as I've been here, and I've been working with the city for 23 years, I have found no disadvantages to RESCO.
What are the basic factors a community needs to think about if it's considering a resource recovery plant?
I think that the thing a community should be most interested in is a method whereby they can dispose of their solid waste for a protracted period of time, hopefully 20 years, at a known cost and with a methodology that is environmentally sound and with a system that is efficient, proven, and capable of handling that requirement for 20 years. The other aspects of looking at resource recovery or refuse energy projects for the energy content, that's how you pay for these plants. And what the community should be primarily interested in is getting a good, dependable disposal service for a long period of time.
So when you look at a resource recovery system or a waste-to-energy system today, it, in many, many cases, is the cheapest way to get rid of garbage. It is also probably the most environmentally sound way to get rid of garbage. And it certainly, from a conservation standpoint, is the best way to get rid of garbage.
Boston, Houston, San Diego, New York. These are just a few of the communities around the country where resource recovery is an integral part of future plans. And as more and more plants are built to meet local needs for garbage disposal, the energy they create will make a meaningful contribution to the national goal of energy independence.
We hope that you found the film you just saw to be informative. We think it is a very good history of how solid waste management has evolved over the last 10 years. I think that if you watched the film, you noted that regulatory people from the state of New York, from US EPA, talked about the change in solid waste disposal and how they had learned that there was a more effective technique for waste disposal. And some of the considerations of running the RESCO facility in Massachusetts, which incidentally has been operating for 8 years now and has been a leader in the industry in the concept of full service design, construction, and operation of a facility. Now that was more of a general look at resource recovery in another facility. We're going to move now into a more specific look at the proposal that Signal RESCO has forward to build a plant in East Brunswick, the Edgeboro Resource facility. This slide presentation was put together with the assistance of Coleman & Pellet, a public relations firm from Union, New Jersey. The voiceover was done by Joseph Coleman himself. It's been a pleasure working on it, and we think that it informs the residents of East Brunswick about all the significant aspects of doing a project and what we propose for the Edgeboro Resource facility.
Resource recovery, the environmentalists' answer to the solid waste dilemma.
Municipal waste is a subject we usually don't think about. For most people, it's way down on their list of public concerns, far below taxes, crime, unemployment, and education. But the impact of our decisions about waste disposal is substantial, both on our pocketbooks and on the quality of our environment. In an affluent society such as ours, people and businesses tend to generate a lot of garbage. A family of 4 typically throws away 2 tons of household waste a year. What happens to all that garbage? Years ago, the town dump used to handle all of it. But with greater affluence, technological advance, we've outgrown the dump and replaced it with the landfill, generally land considered unsuitable for development. But New Jersey is running out of landfill space. Moreover, landfills represent an inefficient use of available acreage, and in many cases are ecologically unsound. As a result, landfills cannot be regarded as the sole solution to the waste disposal problem. In New Jersey alone, the number of landfills has dropped from 365 in 1970 to 168 in 1983, and these figures are changing daily. 15 landfills now handle 75% of New Jersey's waste. In most cases, these closings have occurred because the landfill capacities prescribed by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection have been reached. Other landfills have been closed because they do not meet or cannot be upgraded to comply with the DEP's environmental safety codes. Closer to home, Global Landfill in Old Bridge and ILR in Edison are expected to close within a year. As a result, Edgeboro, probably the most environmentally sound and safe landfill on the East Coast, could be under pressure to accept additional refuse from distant as well as nearby towns. As landfills continue to close, many New Jersey communities are being forced to truck their garbage great distances, tripling and quadrupling their hauling and tipping fees. What about the costs to East Brunswick? Projections indicate that the costs of using the landfill will rise significantly as available space declines. Even though it will be one of the first landfills in New Jersey to complete required environmental upgrading, the Edgeboro landfill remains an inefficient and increasingly expensive method of waste disposal. The problem will not go away. Failure to find a solution now will lead to far greater environmental and economic problems in the future. What are the options for East Brunswick? Recycling is part of the balanced solution. Communities like East Brunswick, where a voluntary recycling project has been in effect for several years, are recognizing that recycling helps protect the environment and may help cut disposal costs. Recycling is a necessary step, but recycling alone can't do the job, even if everyone in town becomes a part of the effort. As the chart shows, recycling accounts for disposal of less than 2% of municipal wastes. The most optimistic estimates suggest that 25% of New Jersey's solid waste can be recycled. Resource recovery is the solution that every county in New Jersey, including Middlesex, has identified as the most responsible long-term answer to their disposal needs. A decision backed by the county's Solid Waste Advisory Council. However, the short-term recycling, resource recovery are only part of the solution. While they will save as much as 85% of the current landfill space requirement, the fact is we can't do without landfills entirely. Resource recovery, the most important element in the 3-part solution, is a waste-to-energy process that takes what we need to get rid of, the tons of solid waste we generate every day, and burns it at high temperatures and processes it into steam to generate electricity, the power we depend on in our homes and businesses. The technology proposed by Signal RESCO is one that has proved safe and workable over decades of use in other advanced industrial societies, and more recently, here in America. The plant employs the most modern and effective environmental technology that enables it to operate well within the most stringent standards set by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Only residential and commercial wastes are accepted. No industrial wastes, no chemicals, no hazardous or toxic materials are permitted. The plant, including the refuse tipping area, is entirely enclosed. A negative air pressure is maintained at all times so that odors are drawn immediately into the furnaces. none is perceptible even within a few feet of the plant. Trucks are weighed and inspected and then enter an enclosed reception area. Under the supervision of plant operators, wastes are unloaded into a pit and then transferred by crane into a refuse feed hopper that leads directly into a charging chute, and from there to the furnace, shown here during a period of shutdown when it is available for inspection and cleaning. Wastes are burned on specially designed grates, pictured at the bottom of this slide to ensure maximum combustion. The energy released is converted into electricity for sale to a nearby utility. Combustion gases are cleaned by dry scrubbers, followed by a particulate removal device called a baghouse, the most effective process yet developed for removing pollutants. Any emission into the atmosphere is minimized to a point where it can only be measured in parts per billion, levels well within the standards set by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, one of the strictest codes in the nation. As a result of its sophisticated environmental safety controls, the plant would emit a lower level of aromatic hydrocarbons than a single gas station, 30 times less nitrogen oxide than produced by typical auto traffic, 130 times less sulfur dioxide, and 250 times less hydrochloric acid than any of the area's fossil fuel-fired utility power plants, and 3,000 times less benzoapyrene than the typical home fireplace. All emission levels either meet or substantially exceed the stringent regulations established by the DEP. The glass and metal residue that isn't burned is conveyed to a reclamation area for sorting and recycling. Plans for the facility also include a county-wide recycling center. The inert ash that remains after burning can then be disposed of in the landfill or used for road construction. Very little leachate is produced since the organic material, the major source of leachate, is burned in the recovery process. Resource recovery plants employing the Von Roll technology, the Swiss process licensed by Signal RESCO, and the same process planned for the East Brunswick facility are becoming a widely accepted solution to the waste disposal problem. America's approach to solid waste disposal has lagged behind other countries, but we are now closing that gap. This resource recovery plant, now under construction in Peekskill, New York, is a joint project of Signal RESCO and Westchester County. Signal RESCO combines state-of-the-art technology with many years of experience provided by the merger of Signal's UOP Solid Waste Systems Division with Wheelabrator Fry, builders of the successful plant in Saugus, Massachusetts. Saugus has become recognized throughout the nation as a model of community commitment to environmentally and economically sound management of solid wastes. Let's take a look at the experience in Saugus. A case study prepared by the U.S. Conference of Mayors talks about the economic benefits. Tax benefits to Saugus from its resource recovery plant are equal to 6% of the community's municipal use budget. The plant has been in continuous operation since 1975, processing 1,000 to 1,500 tons of waste per day. The report states, quote, "Reliability is ensured by RESCO's long-developed technology," unquote. The plant has provided over 50% of a major local industry's energy needs, saving 18 million gallons of fossil fuel annually, what the report calls, quote, "a vital step towards energy independence," unquote. Most importantly, the Saugus plant earned the Premier Award for Excellence given by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, the President's Council on Environmental Quality, and the Environmental Industry Council, quote, "in recognition of outstanding leadership in the application of advanced environmental technology and significant contribution to the protection of the nation's environment," unquote. Resource recovery would also make good sense for East Brunswick. East Brunswick residents would benefit from increased revenues for municipal use, lower tipping fees for the host community, and a stronger local economy. As part of its petition to the Board of Public Utilities, Signal RESCO will propose a payment to East Brunswick of $1 per ton of solid waste processed, $440,000 in the first year, making Signal RESCO the single largest contributor to the municipal tax base. Provisions for an escalating rate can also be made. Consider what that much added revenue could mean to East Brunswick. $440,000 a year can finance $4.3 million in capital projects, or it can be used to maintain or restore a number of municipal services. For example, 4th of July fireworks, street lighting, police cars, library books, snow and ice control, and payment of the debt service on the Senior Citizen Center now under construction. Over a 20-year period, the Signal RESCO plant would contribute more than $9 million in revenue, lessening the tax burden on all residents and improving the quality of life in the community significantly. Building and operating the Signal RESCO plant will create new jobs and strengthen the local economy. Several hundred workers will be needed at different stages of construction. And once the plant is in operation, 55 permanent full-time jobs will be created. The Signal RESCO plant will be self-sufficient, producing its own energy and requiring minimal services from the town, since the plant provides its own processed water, security, and basic firefighting facilities. As in Saugus, the Edgeboro plant would make an important contribution to local energy sources, helping to conserve finite fuels. A natural question that deserves a reasonable answer is, why East Brunswick? Edgeboro was selected as the site for the county's resource recovery facility because it meets all of the vitally important criteria for successful siting of a resource recovery facility. Number one, East Brunswick is located in the geographical center of Middlesex County. Therefore, hauling costs for all of the communities in the county will be minimized. Second, since it is close to New Jersey Turnpike Exit 9, Route 1, and Route 18, Edgeboro has excellent highway access. Moreover, no trucks will travel on residential streets, nor will there be any increase in truck traffic over present usage. Third, Edgeboro is on the Raritan River, a location designated by the county as appropriate for a waste-to-energy facility. Water is needed for steam production and plant operations. A readily available energy market is another consideration. Edgeboro would provide a local, reliable energy source for nearby utilities. Finally, residue from the plant can be disposed of easily and efficiently in the adjacent landfill. No new areas need be opened up. The location also enables the development of a model program of recycling, resource recovery, and landfill disposal to meet the town's and the county's solid waste disposal needs. However, perhaps most important is the fact that the nearby landfill results in lower costs to citizens. The site of one of the most environmentally advanced resource recovery facilities in the world, East Brunswick's reputation as a progressive, innovative community would be enhanced. Local appraisers see no negative impact on property values for East Brunswick. Studies on property values in Saugus show none from their resource recovery plant. In fact, Saugus has earned the reputation of a model community that has handled the solid waste problem in responsible, intelligent fashion. The plan proposes the best available technology. It meets all federal and state environmental standards. The facility would benefit East Brunswick economically through municipal revenues, ease of local disposal, creation of jobs, and the strengthening of the local economy. The plant provides a stable source of local energy for local use. It will create new job opportunities. It involves no adverse impact on traffic or on property values. East Brunswick would demonstrate responsible leadership and initiative in dealing with the fact of urban life that affects each one of us right now, setting an example for future generations. Resource recovery, the environmentalists' answer to the solid waste dilemma. It makes sense for East Brunswick.
Hopefully you have been with us now for the entire presentation, have seen the film that was put together for us by Robert McNeil. You've now seen the general in the film, gone to the specific in the slide presentation, so you should have a good understanding of what the major points and the major positive aspects of the Edgeboro RESCO project to the town of East Brunswick, township of East Brunswick are. Now in the last part of the presentation, we would like to come back to a couple of those points we think they're important to emphasize and have hopefully an understanding engendered in you as to why we think this is a sound proposal and makes a great deal of sense for East Brunswick. Before we get into a couple of those specific points which you just saw in the slide presentation. I wanted to ask Dot, since she's been on the scene for about 3 years now, not only as an employee of Signal RESCO, formerly Wheelabrator, but as East Brunswick resident, if she could remind us of how the project came to be incorporated into a plan there at the Edgeboro Resco site.
Okay, in the mid-70s, New Jersey passed the Solid Waste Management Act. Passed the legislature, I believe, unanimously. All our Middlesex County legislators voted for it. In 1979, following that, the county developed its solid waste management plan, calling for a resource recovery facility along the Raritan River, and left to private industry to select the exact site. In 1980, East Brunswick passed the Economic Health Amendment to its master plan. This suggested that the location for the county resource recovery facility should be at the site of the Edgeboro landfill because it was adjacent to the landfill, and another reason was because it had good highway access into the site and also was adjacent to the river because the river is needed for processed water. There were other reasons. Those are 3 of the main reasons why East Brunswick incorporated this into their master plan.
So it became a part of the Economic Health Plan in 1980, and we have been proceeding consistent with that.
Right, and it was shortly after that that Wheelabrator Fry opened their office in New Brunswick for the purpose of developing the Edgeboro project.
Right. I think that's an important bit of background that people should be aware of. Some points that we wanted to come back to that we think are worthy of emphasis. The plant that's being proposed for the Edgeboro Resco site is technologically the most advanced plant that has ever been proposed anywhere in the world. It incorporates furnace configurations which lend themselves to more complete combustion. It's a highly efficient steam cycle that's been designed into it, and it has very advanced air pollution control equipment proposed. You saw in the slide presentation the spray dryer absorber and bag house. The proposal to use this equipment was consistent with the then anticipated guidelines adopted by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And in view of that, Wheelabrator went ahead and proposed that equipment, thus making it more extensive equipment and a better design than on any plant previously. And it is interesting to note that there are over 300 similar mass burn combustion plants around the world and more being built constantly. As a matter of fact, we do have 3 plants under construction. We are operating 2 plants. We've been selected on 2 other projects to build plants. We see more and more of these plants being built around the country as the next decade wears on. Some other points that we think bear a little further consideration on traffic impact, for example. We hear citizens concerned about traffic impact, but we don't think there will be any additional traffic, Dot.
No, because the landfill is already there and it's already taking waste from several parts of the county and out of county. The impact on the plant as a result of the plant being there will not increase. People are very concerned about that intersection, and there are, in the morning I go by it, and there are trucks there, garbage trucks. But there are also 2 trucking terminals on Edgeboro Road. That also adds to the truck traffic at that intersection. When the intersection is most backed up, however, is in the evening rush hour. That's the time of day when you come by it, and the intersection will frequently be backed up to Edgar Street. That hour of the day, there are no garbage trucks because the landfill closes at 4 o'clock. So if you're coming by 5:30, garbage trucks are not a part of the traffic.
Right. Well, we think that is a significant point. I think you could sum it up by saying the same waste is being collected by the same vehicles and brought from the same places through the same routes to the same facility and should not be increased because, or will not be increased simply because the plant is now placed there. I think the other thing that we should point out is that, or one of the other things that we should point out is that the economic benefits accruing to the township that will be proposed before BPU are fairly significant. We did look back into the town, some of the recent budget hearings, and saw some of the items which were cut out, which incidentally would add up to the $440,000 first-year payment that we would be proposing to make. Some items such as street lighting, a fleet of police cars, library books, snow and ice removal, and the debt service on the Senior Citizen Center And incidentally, even the 4th of July fireworks as an item that had not been included in the budget, or any others that you may think of that would be important that this facility would fund. Now the question comes up, it has come up to us, well, what about the increase in price in view of this payment? The payment is fine, but shouldn't there be an increase in price? And I would say that some work has been done recently by Middlesex County solid waste people, which is consistent with work I've seen in 20, 30 projects around the country and with recent proposals. So we think that that's probably pretty close to the kind of, or the magnitude of increase that would be resultant from the facility. I might add that if you stayed with landfill, the price has to go up, and will probably go up significantly as the landfills continue to close around New Jersey. So I think that's about all we have time to discuss. We hope that you have enjoyed the presentation, that you have learned some things from the film and from the slide presentation, that you are looking at this issue and listening to some of the things we're saying. The industry has evolved over the last dozen years to the point where the kind of facility we're proposing is recognized as one of the best means of waste disposal, and we hope that you will come to understand that. So with that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Signal RESCO presentation with you on behalf of Dot and myself, and we hope that you'll consider it favorably in the future.